Jackie Speier, I'm familiar with. Thank you for your wonderful work to allow me to become an independent paralegal. Sometime in the past, your great work allowed me to do that. However, in the meanwhile, I work for the federal government. And so now I'm on dialysis. Here at the VA, in my dialysis treatment, I wanted to get a kidney transplant. So they told me, you need to jump through all these hoops and go through all these medical examinations. I went through all the medical examinations. I passed all the steps that I had to go through and worked out fine. But when they did my last blood count, they noticed that I had marijuana in my system. And I suggested to them that my doctor give me drogonol, which is the alcohol-like stimulant for people in my medical condition, which showed up on the reading. And so as a result of that, I'm not allowed to be placed on the list to receive a kidney transplant. And I think that is so pathetic. How can you help me on one hand, and on the other hand, hold me back a certain kind of way? Now, I propose a compromise that they allow me to take the drogonol and be placed on the list. Then once I'm placed on the list, I can stop taking the drogonol, expecting to get a kidney, whenever that might be. I wonder, is there any kind of way that you can help me to resolve this logjam, if you will? And this question is more for Madam Bonnie Graham. This is the VA system, that the procedures they have in place.
So I'd be happy to have our staff look into this. Of course, I don't know your personal situation in greater detail there, nor do I have the physician expertise. So we would need to bring this information to the medical team and see what the options are so that we can help you along the way. And I'd be happy for you to give your information to Natalie, who's right to your left, and we will look into that.
Okay, I've taken down both of the names. I do have packets for these people whenever they're ready.
Oh, good. Okay.
And so forth and so on. But I will say, I will try to close and say this. I've been coming to the VA hospital for 40, almost 50 years. And I owe my life to the VA hospital. And the VA hospital does excellent care. Here recently, you're right, Madam Jackie Speier, here recently, the budget has never decreased. I read the Congressional Quarterly like most people read the newspapers.
I was going to say, not like most people.
And so the result, I'm one of those type of geeks that keep up everything pertaining to the VA. And the VA has provided excellent care for all of us veterans who served in Vietnam warfare. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Jack Hutchison. I did 2 tours in Vietnam. Unfortunately, there is an error in your information. When we came back from Vietnam, if you were a combat veteran, all of your treatment for the rest of your life was free, period. There was no co-payment. There was no service-connected disability garbage at all. President Clinton decided he was going to try to help balance the budget by requiring veterans to pay for medications, appointments, services, therapy, whatever, okay? So when you say that it doesn't ever diminish, that's not right. That's a mistake,
Well,
okay?
all right.
Trust me.
All right, so your question is what?
The question is, okay, I've worked at Lawrence Livermore Lab, and our computer connections to Los Alamos, the Nevada test site, so forth and so on, were excellent in the mid-1980s, okay? Now then, recently, I have had a torn rotator cuff shoulder injury. It took me 2 years to see an orthopedic surgeon in Fresno and the doctor and his staff or assistant could not bring up the DVD from their records department in the basement of the same hospital. Okay? I got a referral to San Francisco, okay, to escape from Fresno. There's a laundry list of horror stories of the Fresno VA that I won't get into, okay? My arrival here, okay, the orthopedic surgeon here could not bring up the CD in the records, in the file that was supposed to be available, but I've learned I brought copies with me, okay? Now then, until somebody gets this squared away and everybody's on the same sheet of music, this is not gonna work. Not at all, okay? A personal friend of mine did the contract for the US Postal Service. So when you walk into the post office and you see that black scale and that little screen and it tells you how much your postage is and what zone and everything like that, it took him 1.5 years and he installed it nationwide, okay? And he did it for a whole lot less money than what we're talking about everybody's kicking around these days. So if we don't improve the communication, if we don't improve the transfer of information, okay, the veterans are always going to get left in the lurch, okay? And I know about it personally, okay? And there's a lot of other people that have gone through the same thing, okay? So thank you for the town hall meeting. I appreciate it. But like I said, our deal when we went to Vietnam was free medical for the rest of your life, period. Not service connected, nothing else. And that's what people in the country don't recognize and they don't understand. That was taken away from us and nobody paid any attention. Sorry to be upset, but.
As with anything, we've got to be willing to pay for it. All of us, as Americans, have got to be willing to pay for it.
I paid 42 years of Social Security taxes in some pretty high income brackets. I've paid, trust me, and I did 2 tours in Vietnam.
Well, actually, you don't, we can have that conversation separately, but Social Security, you don't pay a tax after the $100,000. So Medicare, you pay taxes on
Right.
retire income. On Social Security, after $100,000, you don't pay an additional tax. So, I mean, that has something to do with why the Social Security retirement system is not as flush as it could be. But
Right.
that's a separate discussion. We're here to talk about the health care issues here at VA San Francisco.
Well, here, the computer systems are no better than they are anywhere else in the system. The physician.
Well, I don't think they're suggesting that the computer system is good here. They're suggesting that the computer system is inadequate here. Now, I will tell you, in my conversation with the Inspector General for the Veterans Administration, who is extraordinarily knowledgeable, who's done all these studies that have really reported to us since 2005 about some of these problems, he said that in the end, us trying to come up with a new system is probably not the best idea. Because Kaiser, after they spent billions of dollars on their electronic record system, actually ended up taking a system from the shelf and adjusting it. And we may be better off just buying a system right off the shelf and using that rather than trying to tweak it into something that is only going to crash from time
I
to time.
have several friends in the industry that would be more than willing to help you implement that.
All right, okay, thank you. Next.
Lonnie, I came into your office this morning trying to resolve.
I'm sorry, I couldn't hear you.
Yeah, why don't you raise that up? Because I think that's part of the problem. It's not. There you go.
Lonnie, I came into your office this morning trying to solve several problems, including retaliation and intimidation and termination of my medical benefits. I also came in trying to give you people a check for $4,200. Will you please accept this so I can solve this problem? I owe the VA this money, and if you can just accept this, I'll never have to come back here again. Jackie, Mark DeGaulis attempted to intervene on my behalf with a computer problem in Palo Alto not interfacing with the computer system here from a C&P exam. A doctor made a decision on me without seeing the records, without examining me. That's now being used against me in court. I would appreciate fixing the computer systems. Thank you. Would you take this check?
So I would like to suggest, Watha, if you can help this gentleman, we can take care of this.
Hello, Congresswoman. Hello, Bonnie. Thank you for inviting me. My name is Sigrid Topper. I'm here on behalf of my husband, Bob Topper. And I'd like to, excuse me, I'd like to thank the medical staff at the San Bruno Clinic, especially Dr. Strauss. I try to talk louder. I have a sore throat. I want to thank the medical staff at the San Bruno Clinic for taking such great care of my husband. He was sick. And especially Dr. Strauss. He made a special call to call me Saturday nights on his time off, or to make sure I gave him the correct medication and that I understood the instructions, so that's wonderful. And also over here at the clinic, at the medical center, he received excellent treatment. My only concern is my husband received a strange notice. What did it say? I'm almost forgetting. After careful and consideration, we have decided that we can no longer carry you, or we have to discontinue paying for some of your services. And I didn't understand. I never read this until about 3-4 weeks ago. And it came, the envelope came last year, probably last year, with his handbook, medical handbook or veterans handbook. And it included also a yellow form that you can complain. I don't understand the process. Why would we? Then some of the bills have been rejected, or they're slow in paying. They still have not paid the doctor's bill. It's a non-service connected service that he's receiving, and we are making up, we are paying the difference. But they have not paid, they have paid most of the bills for the November hospitalization of November 7th through 11th. And they have not paid the anesthesiologist, but actually the surgeon as yet. Still outstanding and unsure.
Is this for surgery last November that took place, and they haven't paid them yet?
Not yet, no. And the notice I have received, it looks, he sent it out of state, and it looks like it's going to collections. Several other bills have already gone to collections, and we are receiving calls. And I told them, I called them back, that I will not pay them. We are going to object to it. Try to find out how we do that.
So what
Then I checked, excuse me?
Sorry, what I was going to suggest, because I'm not sure I am familiar with what you just received that you referenced, it would be helpful before you leave, I know they're out at the table now, to give that information to the patient advocates.
Oh, yes.
So that we can help resolve this for you.
Yes, that would be nice. And that's why I found out his classification had changed. When he signed up in 2000, in the year 2000, it was 7C. For all these years, it was priority group 7C. Also last year, and then it changed apparently last June when he completed his means test, or turned in his means test. The priority group has changed to 8. Nobody notified him. And maybe that's the reason
Did you
why.
have changed circumstances in your life relative to
Yes,
income?
right now we're being audited by the Atlanta, what is this group called, VA Health Business or Health Services.
I think you need to see the patient advocate, and you need some help in moving through this
I'm
process.
trying to understand the system.
Yeah, and you've got
I
enough on
belong
your-
to Kaiser, I
On
like
your
that.
plate. You've got enough on your
Yeah.
plate.
Thank you very much.
All right, thank you.
Oh, good. just wanted to let you know, Seton, when my husband was at Seton, again, he had problems with his pacemaker. I could hear the noise, he was making noises. So, and he couldn't breathe, so I drove him to save money, so I drove him to Seton. It's 10 minutes from our home. And the hospital administrator came in either the first or second day and stated, "Why did you bring him here? The VA has a very poor record of payment." I said, "I gave you the information. He has Medicare Part A. They should be paying for the hospital bill. I don't know about the rest." And they did pay, I found out. This Medicare sent us the information and they did pay their bill. But it was embarrassing here that the room was full with doctors and nurses, and then she just comes charging in. And that they have a bad record, and I'm so glad my husband stood up, and he said he served there for 9 years, a total of 9 years, and he deserves to be receiving better treatment than that. Then she left.
All right.
So Natalie is standing at the back, the patient advocate, and I think she can help you because
Yeah.
a lot of these details
Yes.
we can help resolve.
Also, Dr. Chimenti, the cardiologist at Seton, had been in contact, or one of her personnel has been in contact with the VA in San Francisco to make sure that he could be dropped off, because they said any day the veteran will send an ambulance and pick him up. Nobody came, and they had they had no room for him. This happened on more than one occasion. I wrote this down. I have a little booklet
All
when
right.
I made
That
my
would be
phone
helpful.
calls. They had no room. So, yeah.
I just wanted to add that also they received an ambulance bill for him as well, and that they refused claims to the VA, refused to pay for that as well, even though he could not be transferred, and that this VA on this end said there was no room for him to be transferred.
So,
All right, you're getting into the specifics of your case, so I think we should have you speak to the patient advocate.
Okay.
This is going to be our last question. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Any more questions?
Congresswoman Speier, Dr. Graham, I'm Leroy Acosta with the DAV, the Disabled American Veterans. I'm the National Service Officer Supervisor out of the Oakland office. I've been there 2 years. I recently was in the San Diego office for 8 years. There's a tremendous difference between the VISN in San Diego, for those of you who may not be familiar with that, the Veterans Integrated Service Network in San Diego, which is wonderful compared to what's up here. My question is, for veterans with disability benefit questionnaires that are bringing them to the VAMC in San Francisco, is there a special clinic that you alluded to earlier? Is there actually a special clinic that they can bring them to? I know it's difficult when you just barge in and show it to your primary care physician. Hey, I have a DBQ. Many of them are being turned away, and they believe without their knowledge. They just don't know that there is a difference between the Veterans Benefit Administration, the Veterans Health Administration, and they just don't know the disconnect because many veterans don't know. But are you really working to ensure that there is a warm handoff into different sections into the veterans healthcare system?
So we have our colleague at the back of the room, Lee, if you want to just raise your hand, from the Veterans Business Administration, in that we're trying to coordinate efforts. And Dr. Strauss, I know you've been working with a lot of the staff as it relates to the DBQs. Do you want to share some of the things that?
Well, I guess his question is, if physicians are not comfortable doing the DBQs because they're providing primary care, is there someone within the hospital setting that they can pass them to that can do the DBQs? Is that your question?
Yeah, basically that's what veterans are asking.
So we have publicized, and we have a medical center memorandum that basically reiterates the VA directive in this area that says that if a DBQ falls within the scope of what a particular provider is doing, then that provider should try to accommodate the veteran. So we've been trying to get this word out, and I know that there have been cases where that hasn't happened in the way that we would like it to, and so it's clear that also we need to keep following up on that. But we do have that in place, and sometimes there are areas that are just outside of what that particular provider does, outside of their specialty, outside of what they feel comfortable doing, in which case then the veteran can get a exam through the compensation and pension process. Much of that is being done through a contract, a national contract, and so that's sort of its own process. But we definitely encourage the providers to try to make things as easy as possible for the vets, and when it falls within an area that they're comfortable with in their general area, then we ask them to do that, and we do follow up, and people are definitely doing that, although I know that there's probably still a bit of confusion with follow-up.
It makes a lot of sense with the advent of the fully developed claim process. Many veterans are being encouraged to use the DBQ, and so they'll come in with those. And a lot of times when they do come back with the DBQ unfilled out, they have problems with that.
So, what would be helpful is, as we move this through more of the organization, if there are particular areas that you know about, or particular providers in different specialties, or whatever, that you let us know, so we can really look at other plans if they feel like they're not able to do those.
We'd be happy to do that.
That's what I'm saying.
One of the key areas that we focus on with outreach and stuff is getting outreach, like the Congresswoman alluded to earlier, was getting outreach to veterans and actually educating them, because a lot of times on the way out of service, the first thing they want to do is get home. But talking to veterans and their families and widowed spouses and orphans and stuff about the benefits that they've earned is difficult. We do outreach into communities through a direct mail thing, and DAV is always willing to do that. Our hardest thing is finding a venue. We can do a direct mail piece to get people to a venue. That's never a problem, so we're at your service. And I know you guys are working hard, repelling as fast as you can. It's difficult. And
But maybe we can have some additional communication. We are meeting monthly. Office Amara is leading a group with the veteran support organizations. These are the kind of pieces of information that we need to know more specifically.
well, sure, it takes a village. I'll be happy to drop on my business card, and we'll next meeting that you have, I'll be happy to attend.
That'd be great.
And I think I'd like to thank one person. He's not. I think he might have just stepped out, but Thomas Mack of the DAV volunteer department. He's here, I think. And also Eddie Ramirez. I don't know if Eddie's here. Everybody knows Eddie,
He
but
was.
Eddie's great. So I'd just like to thank both of them for giving us. Maybe I give my card to you before I get out of here. Thank you.
All right, thank you. All right, this will conclude our town hall. I want to thank you again, Graham and Judy and all of the staff of the VA for being here and for supporting the veterans who have come here with their issues. This is not a one-trick pony. We're going to be back. It's going to take some time to work through these issues, but we will have another town hall as appropriate down the road to see how the changes that we're making in the VA is being implemented and how the satisfaction of the veterans is improving. So thank you all again. Thank you.